Thank you very much, Josephat, and Linus, and Dr. Jenga for the introductions. And let me start by saying how excited I was to be back here, or back in Strathmore. The last time I was in Strathmore was when we were still at Lavington, and that was in, the time. I can see perhaps one or two may not have gone to school yet. But I remember Strathmore because when I met Jim McPhee, you all know, and said, Jim, I want to sit my CPA exams and to enlist for the entire part 2 at one go. You know, CPA has 6 sections in 3 parts. I don't know whether it's still the same these days. I'm sure it's still the same. Now, after BCom, you're exempted from part 1 and a few subjects in the others. So I said, I want to enlist in the entire part 2, and I want to finish part 3, the next sitting. And he said, I've had many like you come and express that intention, but the reality has been different, and because of that, we have said nobody, enrolls for more than 1 section. He said, make it an exception, and let me prove it. And he agreed. So I enrolled for part 2 in December of '86. And sat the exams. Then January of '87 came and said, I want to enroll for part 3 for June sitting. I said, we have not seen the exams. We agreed we need to see the exams, whether you pass, whether you're repeating. And there was a notorious subject, accounting 3, that used to derail people within part 2. And he almost refused. And I said, if you refuse, I'm going to enroll elsewhere. And I'm guaranteeing you I'm going to pass, and I'll pass the other one. And the exams came out, and I had passed and even got some prizes in one of the papers. So he said, I think you passed on this one, but on this other one, I'm going to ensure you only do it in section by section. But eventually, we had a negotiation, and he agreed, and I sat the part 3 in June and finished off with it. So I was very happy to approve Jim McPhee wrong. And that became our joke with him, that he knew everything else except how to read my mind. And he gave me the inspiration to actually sit and complete the CPA within 2 sittings, which I was very happy about. And as a result of that, what happens is you find most of the people who started before me and finished after me tend to think we're in the same class. But that's the beauty of the commitment at Strathmore, and I'm so happy to be back here, and I want to congratulate you for the good things you're doing in promoting the culture of business and entrepreneurship in this country. Now, coming back to today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm trying to see who was there at the Intercontinental 2 years ago. Apart from Linus, he will never graduate to the Club 101. I don't even know what he does in Club 100. He doesn't belong here, but who else was there? Yes, I see a few hands, and I also know 8 have left. 3, I performed the ceremony of getting them to graduate in 2009. So it gives me great pleasure to once again attend this 4th Kenya Top 100 conference. And like I said, I was with you at the Intercontinental in the 2009 conference. And the fact that the organizers have called me to be here again, it's either they have faith in me or everyone has gone and we are starting all over again. But they believe we have something we can share. And I think, like Linus did mention, usually when you join government, you're branded a politician. And there's an assumption that when you go to government, you leave your business brains behind. And you go, because nobody talks well about politicians. But Josephat has just given a typical example of what we have to go through in terms of what is happening in Greece. The political leadership of Greece is being taken through, the ringer, by the European community in terms of what they must do, by the IMF in terms of what they must do. But when they go back home and tell their people, we must cut jobs, we must cut salaries, we must cut expenditure, everyone just goes to the streets and says, haki yetu, haki yetu. And they are saying it in Greek, and you know how difficult Greek is. So that's why you don't quite understand what they are saying, but loosely translated, they are basically there on the street just saying, haki yetu, which is more jobs, better salaries. They don't care where the political leadership is going to get that money from. And it's exactly the same thing we have to go through here. You know of the recent strikes we had teachers. It's about more employment and more salary. It's about expanding the budget. It's about the bills that are being presented in Parliament. I know I'm not supposed to discuss some of those matters before they come to the floor, but you see populist bills coming in terms of let's increase the wage bill, let's increase the minimum wage. It's all going to impact on you, and we need to hear your voices. Because as you look through your challenges, your bottom line is going to be affected heavily by some of those issues that will come. It's not government, but it will come as part of the governance structures within our parliament, within the union movement that is going to affect you. So we got all those challenges, but I'm happy that my being here today, I'm going to learn from you and hopefully share some of thoughts in terms of what we're doing for you. Allow me at this point also to congratulate KPMG and the Nation Media Group through its local business focus paper, the Business Daily, and as we were being given the references and BD, I thought he had left out. These days we just used to EBD / ETP, OTP. So I for once thought we were back onto the EBD, but it's BD. Under the leadership of Josephat Maura and Linus Gitahi, respectively. And I want to congratulate for their excellent work and the passion with which they carry out this survey, from looking through back to the most respected company in East Africa, an initiative again by the Nation Media Group, to moving to where the real operations are at the top 100. But when you look at the two gentlemen, at times you ask yourselves, why are they getting so passionate about this? But it's something we do recognize, that they do it from the bottom of their hearts. I also want to congratulate you all for having taken that daring step to be participants, the 300 of you plus, who decided you want to bear it all. You want to expose your business strategies. You want to expose your figures. You want to share that experience with your colleagues in terms of saying, this is what we do, and I want to be evaluated. It's not an easy decision, especially for the small and medium enterprises, because we want to hold on to the information we have. You think by holding on to it, it's going to make you better than your competition, because they don't know why you do the things the way you do. Like the joke we had about the Chinese companies when they started doing the roads at night. Much as we wanted it done at night to reduce the congestion, you saw the typical jokes that they're doing it at night so that our local contractors don't learn how they do the roads. So we still have this culture of you want to hide everything, but for you to have volunteered the information, volunteered to participate, you need to congratulate yourself. And more importantly, it's not just for this 1 year. It's to keep up the culture and help. It is by coming in to this club and saying, you know, I want to be part of this membership group. 200 will not have made it. Out of the 100, again, tomorrow, we will know who is top and who is at the bottom. But everyone will be a winner. And by participating within this fraternity, you can only get better and get that respectability. Now, as a government, we do recognize the role that the Kenya Top 100 initiative plays in the support of our blueprint plan that we commonly refer to as our Vision 2030. And as you know, this national vision, the overall aim is to transform this country into a highly industrialized country, a nation that has a higher quality of life for our people by the year 2030. And we can only do that by increasing our prosperity and global competitiveness. And as Linus, as Josphat were talking, those words kept on coming. Competitiveness, that will then lead to our prosperity. And using that prosperity will then create for you a richer market that can afford your products, change lifestyles, as we are seeing in China, like we are seeing in Brazil, like we are seeing in South Africa, in Russia, in India, where the wealth being created is transforming the way people do things, and all of a sudden, people who never used to eat meat 3 times a day, or you know, once a month, are now having it 3 times a day, and the global demand for some of these commodities. So we hope one of these days, by the year 2030 or before, and certainly not after, that we'll have reached this Kenyan dream of through our National Vision 2030. And when you now look at our theme of the survey, one market, more opportunities, then you see it is very apt as it places the focus, again squarely, on finding the opportunity to increase the trade within the countries in East Africa. And I'm very encouraged because looking at some of the findings that Josphat has just shared with me briefly without revealing who is the top. Because, you know, as politicians, I could see you and I tell you, you know you're the one. Or that I could tell you that I was very influential in ensuring that you actually got there. So he has blanked that page. But the one thing that comes out is you are already converted, you're already believing in looking at the wider market, the wider East Africa market, and looking at the 130 million people instead of just the 1,000 within your operation area. Because so long as we keep looking at the bigger picture, that there's 130 million people within the East Africa community, there's another 430 or 500 within when you broaden the EAC, add up the COMESA, add up the SADC countries, and you're thinking within that tripartite framework, you're reaching close to 2/3 of Africa. As we bring in the ECOWAS, as we bring in the Maghrebs, and you're covering the entire Africa, and it's a growing market, then you know why Kenya Airways, for example, is opening up destinations in the rest of Africa, in about every part of Africa, because they can see that potential. And with that anchor airline helping you there, there's no reason why each one of you should not be striving to think beyond Kenya, beyond Muranga, beyond Athi River, to thinking of operating within a wider African market. And I'm also encouraged to see a number of you have already gone out into beyond Africa. We all know, and it's being repeated here this morning, that companies that have participated in this survey consistently are receiving special and preferential treatment as a result of being members of the Top 100 Club. We also have been told, and I've witnessed this, that 8 companies have now moved to the Club 101. And with 4 this year, and 4 this year, and 4 in the last 3 years. So we hope that next year we'll see many more of you moving up. And as you look back at some of these big companies, the Googles, the Microsofts, Facebook, Ford Motor Corporation, we all know they all began here. But coming closer home, where did Equity Bank begin? Do we know? In a small shop, as a building society. And it's now, on a global basis, everyone talks about it. Where did Safaricom begin? Looking at it, 2002, how many customers were connected to Safaricom? When they were getting the license, they were being given a very tough condition, as it was put then, that you must connect not less than 700,000 new customers in the next 5 years. It was a very tough condition, almost double underlined, because it was a small company. But look at where they are. We are not talking of hundreds of thousands. We are talking of millions of customers. And the revolutionary M-Pesa that started here, and which I was very happy to have been part of. Because when they came to me and said, we got this, people are sambazaring money, the sambaza, and have started selling airtime or sending airtime and people selling it and getting money. And we think we can convert this into a money transfer service. At that point, early 2007 or late 2006 when we started discussing it, and I asked the regulators and everyone was saying, no. This thing, we can't allow. This might end up being another pyramid scheme. We don't have the regulation. We need to go to. I said, how fast can you develop those? And nobody could give me an answer. So I said, we cannot stop innovation. Let the innovation start. We will develop the regulations as we go on. And I said, what are your fears? And I called Michael Jackson. I said, Michael Joseph. They are both legends of sorts. And I said, Michael, people say that this could be used for money laundering and all that. What is it we need to do? And the magical 35,000 per day, we derived it from that point. Let's make it nobody can transfer more than $500 a day so that it helps. And so I was very happy that by working together, having some faith in some of those innovations, we were able to get M-Pesa launched in March of 2007. And I was the first customer, and I was the first one to send money on M-Pesa. And I don't know whether that's an indication that anything I touch turns into gold. But I was very happy to see that M-Pesa started in Kenya, and it's now a globally acknowledged phenomenon. So even as we start looking at the General Motors, as we start looking at the bigger companies, the Googles and all those things, just think of the little ideas that could come from your own companies and how we could transform them. And I'm very happy about the new initiative by Linus, and we hope we can all give it a chance because we got lots of all these young guys with ideas, but they don't know where to go. And obviously with the news coming on harnessing the dollar and increase in the exchange rates and in the interest rates, they are going to get even more scared. But enough of that. When I attended 2 years ago, I was told that plans were underway to also get into Uganda and Tanzania. And I'm told you've already been to Uganda twice. You've already been to Tanzania. You're planning on going to Rwanda and Burundi eventually. And I hope that this will all culminate in having one regional event where we'll have the top 100 companies in East Africa. And I think the challenge I want to pose to the Kenyan companies is that 300 of you have competed for a slot in the top 100 within Kenya. When you now compete within East Africa, I want you all to ask yourself, how many of you will be competing against the Rwandese companies, the Ugandan companies? And especially given the challenges that Linus has just thrown. Tanzania with its liquefied natural gas, the Ugandans with the oil, the Rwandese with their gorillas, and the attractiveness as the center of connectivity and very IT savvy. The Burundians, they are small, they could emerge. What is it you as Kenyan companies are going to compete on to appear on that top 100 within East Africa? That's something you need to think of, and the answers lie here, and between today and tomorrow, I'm sure you'll have come up with something. You're aware of what we've gone through as a country in the last couple of months, in the last 1 year. We had droughts, we had all those things, but the bottom line is we suffered severe food shortages. In a land of plenty, some of our parts of our country, you had potatoes by the roadside waiting for customers, and people starving on the other side. And this harsh reality did demonstrate to us our exposure and our vulnerability as a nation, and brings us to focus in terms of our limited capacity to feed ourselves, yet we have the potential. So we need to start working on self-sufficiency, which also will impact on our demand for foreign currency. And I believe that as a government and the private sector, we have a role to play. The private sector came up with the Kenyans for Kenya initiative, and we saw you raising close to 1 billion shillings that was then used to supplement the efforts of government. Let me take this as the opportunity, because I can see some of you who are here were part of that initiative, to thank you most sincerely on behalf of government and on behalf of the people who benefited from that initiative, for private sector saying that we are going to sacrifice these 1 billion shillings to feed the fellow Kenyans. It's called taking care of your market. If these people died, you have nobody to sell your products to. If they survive and get even richer, and they even link that you are part of their survival, their loyalty will be more to you than to others who are not with them. So may God bless you for that, and I hope, as we say, He's going to broaden your pockets, so that next time round, you even donate more. Although, for us, we want to see an end to this kind of short-term interventions as we work on the longer-term issues. And I hope we can work together to ensure that situations like this can be prevented in the future. Following closely on the famine is then the next issue, which we've all talked about, the rapid devaluation of the Kenyan shilling against the foreign currencies, especially the US dollar. Several factors contribute to this, and Linus has talked about some. Josphat can talk about more. Dr. Jenga can tell you about more. And you are all in this. Because we in government don't handle dollars. You know, we get paid our salary in Kenya shillings. And these days we pay taxes. But there are several factors, including what's happening within Europe, what's happening within the Americas, what's happening on a global scale. But there are also some factors locally that are contributing to this kind of situation. And obviously, when you look at our import bill and the kind of commodities that we are importing, you can almost knock off a whole list of commodities that we produce locally and should not be on our supermarket shelves, should not be taking the the little foreign X that we have, or we are generating to compete with the money that we need for the critical factors of production that we need to bring in. So, as top 100 plus your colleagues who are not here, I would like to urge you that we start looking at why is it that the Kenyans, the Ugandans, the people within East Africa, why is it that they want to take cheese from New Zealand? Why do they want eggs from South Africa? Why do they want to buy, all those other things that they're getting from China and filling the supermarket and all the streets being hawked around? What is it that we can do to convince these customers that we can produce the same goods here in country and save our forex and save them the fact that they don't know who to call should our product malfunction, because they can call us because we are just next door. It's a challenge because every country, the reason Germany is withholding, is holding on so well within Europe is because they recognize that they need to be an export-led economy. And everyone knows about German engineering. Everyone trusts German products. Why can we not work towards everyone trusting the Kenyan product? And then we'll be guaranteed that into the future, as the oil starts coming from Uganda, as the gas starts coming from Tanzania, we have something we can say that we as the Kenyan companies are producing these products, and because they bear that label, they are made in Kenya, we are guaranteeing the customers that they are better than everything else. And that will reduce. We'll be moving us to net exporters and reduce our export bill. It will reduce the cost of our inputs and the other issues that are related to higher the depreciation of the shilling, including what we are seeing today, the likely impact of that on your borrowing. And I know access to credit has been one of your challenges. It will not get any easier. But again, most of you, perhaps there's also an opportunity to start also looking for beyond the traditional banks. Can we now move into the venture capital funds? I don't know why you don't like them. Is it whether they are not available as part of your expansion financing? So as we work towards self-sufficiency food production, we also must continue looking beyond our borders and take advantage again of the common market. From last year, the EAC states have signed into one common market. It's operating, it's working. It has its own challenges, but we know that there's every goodwill, there's every effort to sort out the little issues in terms of customs control, in terms of some border issues that we're working on. I think we all agree that our level of development in Kenya is obviously not sufficient to generate the levels of revenue and wealth that will translate into the standard of living we would all like to see. But by accessing the other markets outside, we can certainly create better standards of living for our people. We've created the frameworks through the EAC, through COMESA, through SADC, through the tripartite, through integrating Africa, through the negotiations that have been done with the Americans, through the AGOA, with the EU, through the EPAs, and with several other blocks that we are working on to ensure that you as a business community are interlinked not only to the regional markets, but also on the international trade platform. And I would like to urge you to start getting engaged in that so that we stop looking just at what is happening within Kenya. I would also like to encourage you to take advantage of the new opportunities arising from within the region. We know of the latest baby, the Republic of South Sudan, where, some of you are already operating. And Ethiopia, we are interconnecting, again, through the roads and through this Lamu, Ethiopia and South Sudan corridor, when it eventually takes form. These are two growing markets. Ethiopia is growing very fast. South Sudan is growing very fast, and it's opportunities for you. As a government, I also want to assure you once again that we are committed to ensuring that there's continued job creation for our people. And we do appreciate the efforts and your contribution in this respect, with 60% of employment, again, being created through the small and medium-sized sectors. We all know when populations grow beyond the capacity, or at rates that are faster than the capacity to absorb them into the job market, you start seeing the scenes as we have witnessed within the North Africa, within the Arab world, what is happening with the Hakietu in Greece, and basically in some of the other countries that we've not talked about. We have a large and young population. And you know what happened with us in the 70s, in the 80s. Kenya had one of the highest population growth rates. Those kids who were born in the 80s and the 70s are now job seekers. It's nothing to do with them. They never applied to be born at a period when the population was growing. We had gone very biblical. Get into the world and multiply. And we multiplied, and we had a world record at one point, the highest population growth rate. But the reality is now with us, that all those are now seeking for jobs. And you can see, if they don't give them the jobs, the desperation they get into taking the second generation alcohol, into the desperation, and it's going to have an impact on crime rate. So anything we can do together to increase the opportunities for them to have some employment will be very welcome as we create that bigger market, because we can convert that young population into a demographic dividend through a market for our products, higher productivity, getting people working 24 hours, because we have young, educated populations. So I urge you all to identify your respective input in terms of using this youth and how we can convert them into the wider realization of the Kenyan dream. As a government, we will continue to facilitate trade and investment. I want to say this again. I know it's been said before. Again, for the private sector to ensure that we do not only have a level playing field for all of you, but also we can work towards bringing down the cost of doing business. And you'll have observed that over the last 8 years, certainly, the Kibaki administration has invested heavily in promoting wealth creation and economic growth, while also protecting the bottom of the pyramid through social safety nets, especially within the education and health sectors. It's been talked, and I'm very happy to see it's dropped off from your list of concerns in terms of infrastructure. We've facilitated trade, again, through heavy injections in billions of shillings in key infrastructure projects. And you've seen the roads, you've seen the port expansions, you've seen the modernization of the port, you've seen the investments in energy, you've seen the investments at our airports, rail transport improvement. I know you may not have realized the full impact of it, but within the next 18 months, we should see a number of those initiatives come into fruition. In terms of communication and connectivity, I believe this has been the major success since we invested in the optic fiber cable and more other submarine cables came on board. And we've seen the cost of connectivity coming down and the ease of doing business. How many people still remember how landlines used to act? I mean, this is part of the thing that we are very happy with in the last 8 years we've been able to do. In terms of the legal and structural reforms, again, there's been lots of work on that, the Companies Act, the insolvency bills, the limited partnerships bills. Some of them have been completed, others still work in progress in Parliament, and we'll continue completing this as part of creating a conducive environment for you to do business. We also committed to opening new markets for business and to creating stronger commercial links with other countries in Africa. But I must say that profitable trade is not just about us as a government opening up the markets for you. There's one thing about market access is very different from market penetration. Right? The fact that that door is open does not guarantee you that you'll actually come in and find something useful within this room. And it's something I keep telling the business, because we kept on from my days in treasury, my days in trade, and now in transport. And everyone keeps telling us, you must open up new markets for us. But in opening up a market, it's one thing. But more importantly for you is ensuring that you're competitive to operate within that market, that you're going to beat the Ugandan who also comes into that market. You're going to beat the Indian company that comes into that market, the Brazilian company. And I believe your challenge lies in, as we as a government work with you through the East Africa Business Council, through all the other associations, and open up the markets in East Africa and beyond. Are you competitive enough? Are you efficient enough to enter that market, penetrate deeper into that market, and more importantly, on a sustainable basis? And there is your challenge. Now, I could go on and on and on forever, because I love talking to people who are listening to me and who not come back after I finish and tell me, Mheshimiwa, how have you left us? That's usually the challenge we have as politicians, because you address a group out there, your local business community or in the big brother, and when you think everyone is going home very happy, they come and say, you've talked all those things, but now that you're going, what are you leaving us with? Say, I've left you with that message, and say, we need another message in a pocket. So I'm very happy when I'm addressing people who not revert to that. But I need to also give you enough time to deliberate on your own issues. And as I come towards a conclusion, let me say that, I'm very happy once again, and I want to thank KPMG and Business Daily for organizing this conference. I also want to congratulate all the 300 who participated and the 100 of you who actually made the shortlist for what will happen tomorrow. You're members of an exclusive club, and this has its own responsibilities, but more importantly, it has its benefits. You've been branded, and the most you can do is just get out there and try to make an impact. Let people see you operating differently from somebody who is not a member of the club. And that creates a brand, creates the recognition, and gets other people to aspire to be part of you. So you'll be increasing your own competition as you continue, which is good, because then you are forced to look into better ways. But more importantly, being members of this exclusive club gives you that unique, because you've already opened up at the point of saying you want to compete, you want to participate. It gives you that opportunity to share your best practices, to share your ideas without the risk of plagiarism, without anyone saying you're copying me, because you're sharing it openly, by supporting one another, by getting one another to grow. And I believe that is what you're here for. That was what you came for in 2009 when I last saw you. And I've seen some of the companies that have graduated, that have used some of those experiences, are now big. So I want to encourage you to share those experiences and best practices and strengthen one another and emerge as one big team as we move into the top 100 for East Africa, the top 100 for Africa, and who knows whether you will not be, when Business Daily grows to be like the Fortune, which we hope it will, then we'll see that we are now on the Business Daily 100, the BD 100, on a global scale, as we talk of the Fortune 500. And I hope some of you will be there then. I hope I will have also left politics and come back to where sanity is and grow with you. So I look forward to being with you into the future. And you can see I also did keep my promise to Josphat and Linus. That time they said I was squeezing them out because of my body size, and making them look tiny. And with Dr. Jenga and everyone else, you can see. So since then, I've done my bit. I've shed off my excess weight, and now we can compete fairly on that stage. So we learn through these interactions, and I'm looking forward to also most of you being part of this. So congratulations, and once again, let me take this opportunity to wish you the very best and every success in your deliberations today, in your future. And this conference is never declared open because it's interactive. There's nobody to open it. It was open the moment you started participating. But if you insist, I'll declare it officially open. Thank you.